Welcome back to All About Mag. Welcome back to All About CFFL. It's been an amazing week again of football. It's week two, and reviewing the week two flag football in the Community Flag Football League. With me, Bobby WAR Sports. With me, I have the
I am the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, analytical, methodical individual, the Adebola Gudaba.
right, and we are gonna go through the whole games that happened this weekend. A lot of games, four games in total. It's been an interesting week off the back of national tryouts, which is a talking point which we will touch on. But let Debola take us away.
All right. So first off, we have the play of the week. Bobby, what's your play of the week?
All right, play of the week this week. It's forgive me, it's not gonna be a play, it's gonna be a team. I'm gonna shout out LSC. LSC gave us something to watch this week against the champions. It's pretty much taking a lamb to slaughter on paper, but they came up with something. They gave us something to watch. Scored a touchdown like you predicted. Everyone excited. Champions looking flustered. So it's LSC for me. They gave us something to watch against the champions. And yeah, that's my play of the week.
All right. My play of the week, it's I've got three. I've got three,
Well,
but if I had to put it down to one play of the week, right? Like we've got my affiliations with Titans. We've got the Outlaws almost tying the game, right? But if I had
mm,
to give it to one play, the top one this week, there was a catch that Theo from the Lagos Lions had, right? A diving catch off an extra point. That was insane to me because it's like, how do you even have the athletic ability to get there? Right. And for me, that's the play.
I remember that catch. I remember that catch. It was filmed. It will show up in the highlights. I remember that catch.
Yeah. Right. So moving on, we have the team results and the table as it is. So first up, we have the Spartans who played 30 and LSC who had seven. Bobby, take us away.
LSC played ball, man. LSC played ball. They are the ones I'm gonna shout out in this game. They came out, like I said earlier, it was pretty much leading a lamb to slaughter. Newbies versus the reigning champions. You can't do better than that in terms of a scoreline and an expectation for how things to go. But LSC didn't just lay down there, they actually fought back, leaving the Spartans flustered a little bit. You know, I said earlier last week that the Spartans are not going to be rusty. I have to say they were rusty. They were rusty for the first few drives, and I don't think they will argue with me because if they were to have a scoreline, it was not, or the game to, if they were going to predict how the game was going to go, it was not the way the game went this weekend. So, you know, at the end of the day, of course, at the end of the day, the reason why they were champions, you know, still came through because the quality of the teams, there was a gulf. But LSC took them all the way. LSC took them all the way. And speaking of it being an easy run in, you know, easing them in back into competitive football, this was a good start for the Spartans. They definitely had something to think about, organize themselves a lot more, and yeah, good game all around. It was quite entertaining for me.
I'd say for me, I was very surprised seeing LSC get out of the gates right out in the opening drive. Like they on their very first drive scored, and then from there it was just like downhill. But to see them get their stuff together in the very first play of the game, right? It was a joy to watch. And then with the Spartans, right? You have the champions coming off of no competitive football whatsoever, no preseason, no 5v5, no game week one, right here in game week two. Like you said, we expected them to win, but the level of football that we watched, I don't think it was championship level football. And I feel, like you said, they're easing back into it. And next week, we're looking for something better, right?
Yeah, I think we will get it definitely. This low key. This is actually a pattern with Spartans. They usually start off slow, and then when they need to pick it up, they will pick it up. Just as play, if I think they've said this before, don't let the Spartans get into playoffs because once they get into the playoffs, the Spartans that you're gonna see is not the same one that started the season, and I think it's gonna happen again this season. So yeah,
Right. True to the name, Warriors all the way to the end.
yeah.
Yep, yep. All right, moving on to the second game, the Outlaws versus the Wolverines. All right, my notes were messed up. That's my bad. The Outlaws versus the Wolverines. The Outlaws had 18 and the Wolverines had 20. I'm going to say right off the bat before I pass it off on to Bobby, I did predict that this would be a tight game. I did predict this game would end 18 to 19 in favor of the Wolverines. So for the game to end 18 to 20, I'm feeling a little good, just a little bit.
Yeah.
But Bobby,
Great,
your
yeah.
thought?
Great stuff. Great. Absolutely. You're absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. I agreed with you in terms of the game being tough, but I had it go the other way, meaning that Outlaws were going to win the game, but it didn't quite pan out that way. But just as we predicted, it was quite a showing. Anyone could have won this game. Anyone could have won this game. The Wolverines started off slowly. The Outlaws came out, boom. Was it 14 or 12-0? And
12-0.
yeah,
12-0.
one thing that I wanted to point out was that it was 12-0, almost approaching halftime. And guess who I saw smiling on the field in the Wolverines side? Arthur. Arthur was
Oh,
calm. He was like, it's cool, it's cool, 12-0. We know how this is going to end. That's a sign of maturity right there. And that's something that's, that's quite commendable. Uh, then, it was tough for the Outlaws to lose the game the way they did because it was so close, literally margins. They would have tied that game. Last play, was it 2 seconds to go?
yep.
They had made it 18-20, went for 2 points in the extra points, all the way trying to trying to tie the game. Ball is snapped. Jason, I think, free right at the end of the end zone. However, he had stepped out, caught the ball, but he was outside, and it was just, yeah, tough way to lose the game. And they had a long meeting after that, which is great because Outlaws are definitely championship contenders at this point because the quality is there. So yeah, good game.
Yep, yep. I agree. I agree. This game went right down to the wire, and just watching it live, right? Seeing how the Outlaws were up, and then they go down close to the end, but they managed to find their way back. And everybody on the sideline is thinking, "Let them score, let them score, let them score." And then we get to that final play, and the ball is thrown and it's caught, but it's like he did not catch it inbounds. So,
Mm.
so everybody on the sideline is just like, why? What? How? And it's just, oh, that game was definitely gut wrenching. I
Yeah,
think not just for the Outlaws, but for everyone watching, that game was definitely gut
yeah. No,
wrenching. But I'll tell you for a fact, I know one team that didn't feel gut wrenched. They were smiling all the way to the end zone. The Wolverines.
no, and I have to say that I give no. Well, yeah, I think it's clear. That's probably the game. That was the game of the day. That was the game of the day. Yeah, that was
Yep,
the game. I mean, the scoring was limited. You have a lot of games that there was a lot more scoring, but in terms of nail biting stuff, that game was the game of the day.
yep. I totally agree. I totally agree. But moving on to the family affair. keeping things within the family, we have the Titans versus the Mavericks. A high scoring game, a high stakes game, a lot to prove. Only one team could come out on top. The Titans played 43, the Mavericks had 26. Bobby, your thoughts?
I feel like the score line doesn't tell the full story, man. Because I feel like the Mavericks were hard done by with this score line. They literally took it to the Titans in this game. It took a lot of, I probably took the maturity of the Titans to just hold on there and then, create the separation at the end of the game. But they really took it to the Titans. I was impressed with the Mavericks for the better half of this game. It's a couple of things, major things that changed. Larry was not on the sideline. Larry was in the stands. He was in the stands. Caught an interesting moment of him trying to communicate with them on the sidelines by calling. I think it was one of the players on the sideline. They was trying to say like, "What the hell is this person doing?" No, that was hilarious. I cannot lie, but Nero was turned to fully coach mode on the sidelines, and then the man that I had predicted to be the person to watch for the Mavs, which is Orok, the other QB, QB2, I can say, did well. I think he did decently. Did decently. I
Yeah,
think this is his first game that he's solely been the QB, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad game. I mean, there were a couple of picks, but from here it's only going to get better. So I think it was good. Another thing I can't allow slide. I thought Muna was good, but Muna is really good. That's what I'm gonna say. Muna, the
yeah.
new receiver, pairs up very well with, of course, Muna, her QB. But yeah, Muna is very good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna say. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I have a lot of biased takes with this one, seeing as I was not in the stands for this one, but I was on the sideline.
Surprise, surprise.
Well, well, first off, I want to say a big shout out to the Titans for picking up when they needed to, right? Like I said at the start, this game was a family affair, and it felt like in the first half, right, they were toying, right? They were feeling it out, right? But in the second half, it's like, oh, okay, let's sit up, let's adjust the pad, and let's actually look at the screen and see what's going on. And that's what you see. Because in the first half, I believe the score was 13-8 with the Mavericks in front. And then we see the final score with 43-26. And it's like, oh, okay. The Titans definitely they tightened up. So
Yeah.
that was definitely something. And another thing to note, right? The Titans continue their unbeaten streak, the Mavericks.
This unbeaten streak is tough. Oh. I can't wait for the day the Mavs are gonna answer and end this streak. It's gonna be a celebration. Will it be this season? Let's see, let's see. But I don't know if you're done, but I just needed to quickly do shout outs here. Flash back to his best. Classic vintage Flash affecting both ends of the game. Two picks. Was it two touchdowns as well?
It
But
was, I believe.
one, yeah.
I, yeah.
But just being effective in the game. And then you have another amazing shout out to Mama G of Titans. Big A.
Hey,
Yeah, yeah,
yo, yo,
yeah.
yo.
Great to see a lazy
Big
back
shout
on the
out.
sidelines. We have missed
Yo.
the chant. There's no one that chants the Titans chant like a lazy. So yeah, it was good to have a lazy back.
I will say, it definitely gave a spark. It definitely gave the spark. But yeah. Since we don't want to keep this all on the Titans and the Mavericks, moving on to the fourth and final game, a really offense heavy game. The Hawks versus the Lions. The Hawks played six, and the Lions played 35. Bobby, what are you thinking?
Truth be told, the game was very underwhelming for me. I expected a lot more in that game. I expected a lot more from both sides. Because what the first half, it was what drive, stop, drive, stop, drive, stop, drive, stop, zero touchdowns until what a pick six from Happiness, and then it was 7-0. What kind like there's too much, first of all, from the Lions side, there's too much firepower for you guys to be stopped that long, by the Hawks. And then secondly, this is positive now for the Hawks. What I noticed as well was that you see that first half, the Hawks were matching the Lions receivers, male and female, like anything. It was bat down after bat down after bat down, and forced throws. It was a lot of good defensive pressure from the Hawks. So I have to give them that. That's why they also kept the scoring down for the Lions, which is quite commendable. At the same time, I expected more from the Hawks offense as well because I know that they're better than that. Yeah, Prosper,
Yep,
I didn't see a lot from Prosper. I don't think he got the ball a lot, as well as David. I didn't see a lot for. I think they probably marked those guys very tightly. So maybe Basit's hand was forced not to, throw to them. But of course, as time went on, the offensive powerhouse that is the Lions came through. Neddy ran 150 yards. Theo, oh my God, that was your play of the week.
yep.
Theo rolled back the years, if
Mhm, mhm.
if that's a thing. But yeah, she was amazing today. All the offensive powerhouses that we know, stood up. So then we now saw the gulf between the two teams.
Yep, 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 yep. I think for me, right, it was an offensive masterclass from the Lions in the second half, right? Neddy, Monier, Wilson, right? Those three. You really cannot sleep on them, right? Neddy is a danger to every rusher in this league. And I have been told on good authority that rushing is the most important part of flag football because from the rush, you can tell what's going to happen with the rest of the game, right?
Mm.
And it's like Neddy has the ability to just break every rusher down and just get them moving where they're not supposed to be. And
Mm.
then you have offensive powerhouses in Wilson and Monier, who, by the way, for those who do not know, play both offense and defense. I was very surprised to see that because the stamina it takes just to
Yeah.
play one position, they're going back and forth on almost every down. It is incredible.
It is actually when you think about it because they are sometimes they are facing receivers that have been resting while their defense was on the pitch. When they were on the pitch facing, the defense, then they now go and go on defense and face the offense, the receivers that have been chilling.
Yep,
And then you're
yep,
having to run flies, you're having to cover and be mentally focused. So it's actually quite commendable when you're thinking about playing two ways. And then I wanted to also mention another person in that team that goes under the radar, male. And maybe to the benefits and the advantage of the Lions is Baka. That's the other QB who is
that's
also,
number eight.
yeah,
Number eight.
I can't remember his number, but he's
I
one of
think
those
I
that's
think
quiet because you see that, yeah, the running ability, the QB ability, yeah. So it's kind of just under the radar. It's a weapon that they can pull out at any time, and just wanted to give him a shout out because he definitely held his own today as well. I think he scored what, two touchdowns? I can't remember, or maybe one. But yeah, good game.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, that has been it for the team results and the talks. So we get into the table right now, and I think I want you to take a few guesses because I've done the math on this, right? I want you to take a few guesses, right? We've got 9 teams total. And I want you to take a guess on who has the most points 2 weeks in.
The most points 2 weeks in.
Yes.
It can't be the Spartans, they've played only once. Can't be the Giants, they've played only once. It can't be LSC.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be
Is
the
my
out.
smile giving it away? Is my smile giving it
I
away?
know. I'm walking up to them. It's
Uh,
not the Mavs. It's not the Wolverines. It is the
mm,
Titans.
it is the Titans with 85 collective points in 2 weeks.
That's a lot of points.
Lots of points. Now, flipping it to the other side, who do you think has conceded the most points in 2 weeks?
Um, yeah, it should be the Hawks.
It is not the Hawks, surprisingly.
It's not the Hawks. It's
It is not.
oh, it's the Mavericks.
It is the
It's the
Mavericks.
Mavericks.
It is the Mavericks. They
That's
have conceded a total of 92 points. 49 in game one, 43 this one.
bruh. That's a lot of points. That is a lot of points. They need to work on that. Definitely
Yeah,
defensively, bruh. It's a lot of work
yeah,
to.
yeah. Well, it is to be expected when you're facing the offensive masterclass of the Lions in game one, and then the tight ship that is the Titans in game two.
Fair, fair, actually, fair. So it's been a tough. Their defense have faced tough opposition. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I think I want you to take a guess as to who has conceded the least amount of points. But I don't want you to consider the Giants and the Spartans because they've only played one game each. So from everyone else who's conceded the least amount of points for the remaining 7 teams.
Least amount of points.
Yep. Who has
Um.
the tightest defense?
Yeah. Would that be the Outlaws?
It is not the Outlaws. It is not the Outlaws. It
Oh,
is
wow.
actually the Outlaws' opponents of today, the Wolverines, because they had the privilege of playing LSC in game one and
All right.
conceding 0 points
Okay.
and conceded 18 today.
Yeah.
So they have,
I don't think that trend should change anyway. Because if anything, as amazing as the Wolverines' offense is, their defense is also arguably up there the best as well. You know, particularly maybe rivaled only by the Spartans, but their defense is so this should be remain this should be the trend for the remaining of the season anyway. So yeah.